Hi! If you're in the market for an electric kettle and you're not really sure what to go for because there's so much choice out there, then you're not on your own. So what I've done is I've come up with 10 things to consider before buying an electric kettle. So let's have a look. Just before I start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the notification button so that when I bring out new videos on appliances around the house, then you'll be the first to know. Now, although this list is in no particular order, I'd consider this first one is probably the one that most people look at first, and that's the colour and the design of the kettle. Now, the actual look of the kettle is important, as a lot of people will think, because if it's going to be sat on your worktop or if it's in your kitchen, then on the whole most of the time it's going to be out so people can see it. So really picking one that's going to look nice in the kitchen is very important. So as far as kettles go, if you're just after a cheap basic one, then something like that could normally fit the bill. These kind of kettles, that is just a basic white kettle. This is what the supermarkets tend to specialise in. These tend to be around sort of £10 to £15 mark. As you go through the range, as I mentioned, there are so many colours available. You've got the plastic finishes, like on this Morphy Richards one. You've got a glass finish on this. This is a Beko one that we do, so you can actually see how much water is in the kettle. The stainless steel design is always a popular one. It tends to go down quite well. We do find that more people are going towards the matte finish as opposed to a chrome finish because it's a little bit easier to keep clean, and I think they look a bit smarter, like the satin finish. And then you go on to different colours. As far as colours, the world is your oyster when it comes to colours. There's so many available from a lot of manufacturers, but this is a really popular one that we do in the Bosch range. It's a copper colour. Also, apart from the colour, think about the toaster, because some people have a toaster and a kettle next to each other. So if you do have that, then just consider to see whether there's a matching toaster available to go with your kettle, because there's nothing worse than having one different design of kettle to a toaster that's sat next to each other. So number 2 on the list would be the weight of the kettle. Now, for some people it's not important, and that could be way down the list of things to consider, but the weight of the kettle for some people can be a really important factor. That could be more important than the actual colour or design. We do find that some people, say if you've got arthritis or if you struggle with your hands, then to go for something like that is ideal because it's just plastic, it's very lightweight. So just to give you an idea, that one weighs 550 grams, just the kettle on its own, as opposed to this one. I mean, this is actually our best-selling kettle, but this one is a Bosch one. As good as it is, it's 1,030 grams. So it's almost twice the weight. Now, as I say, for some people it doesn't matter, but if you do struggle with your hands, then the weight of the kettle could be a really important factor. Now, number 3 on the list will be the noise of the kettle. This is something we are talking about a lot more now, because as people get open plan kitchens, then the noise of the kettle can be a really important factor. You do find that a lot of kettles now are quick boil, as quite a few kettles have gone up to say around 3 kilowatts. Then the quickness of the boil is very important, but it's always a trade-off against the speed of the boil against the noise of it. So just have a look out for some kettles that have this on there. So that's got quiet boil. This is a Russell Hobbs one that we tend to do well with. So number 4 on the list is the cord length. Now, clearly these are cordless kettles, but you do still need to plug them in to power them. And the cord length can be quite an important factor, really for 2 reasons. First of all, you don't want it too short, so if you've got your kettle in a certain position, you want to make sure that it can reach your plug. Also, you don't want a lead that's too long. There's nothing worse than having a lead on the kettle that has the chance of sort of hanging over the edge of a worktop so that a child can come and pull it. You will find a lot of manufacturers have this kind of design underneath. This is fairly standard, really, and even on some of the cheap kettles. So what you can do is you can reduce the cord length, and once you've reduced it to the minimum required length, then you can just tuck it in there. And then by having the shortest required length, then it just means it's a lot safer, and also you've not got excess cord hanging around on top of the worktop. Now, number 5 on the list is temperature options. Now, I know it sounds a bit odd because all you want to do is just boil a kettle of water, but some kettles will actually heat the water up but not quite take it to boiling point. Now what we're finding is that a lot of people, if you drink things like herbal teas or certain coffees, you don't necessarily need it to go all the way up to full boiling point. So some kettles like this Bosch one give you the option to select different temperatures. All you do is you just press the on button, and then all you would do is you just select the temperature required depending on what you were drinking. What you have also got on this one is a keep warm facility. So if you're say catering for a lot of people, and if you want to make sure that there's some water that's kept warm, then that's a great facility to have. So I'll just quickly show you that. So you just press the on button, and then all you do is you just select. So if you wanted 80 degrees, then it's going to heat up to 80. Now number 6 on the list would be the water level indicator. And what I mean by this is how easy is it to read how much water you're putting in the kettle. You will find it's a lot more efficient to boil the amount of water required. So if you've got a good indicator on the side, then that could be a really important factor. So this is like a standard design where you've just got the gauge on the side there. Some manufacturers, like this one, if you've got a glass kettle, that doesn't really come any easier. So that's a great way of seeing how much water you've got in there. Other manufacturers, rather than putting it on the side, they put it where the handle is. So clearly it's not quite as easy to see, because when you're holding it like that, then it's a lot more difficult to see how much water you've got in there. So just consider that, whereabouts the indicator is. So number 7 on the list what would be the minimum amount of water that you can boil in the kettle. The main reason I mention that, because if you're just going to make, say, a cup of coffee for yourself, if it's just one person, then you will find you don't need to fill the kettle or even half fill it. You only need a small amount of water in there. So just consider the amount of water that you could put in there. You will find that some kettles like this, where you've just got the old-fashioned element, that clearly you need to cover that, so the amount of water that you need is quite a bit. If you compare it to something like this Beko one that's got on there, the minimum amount is 0.5 litres, because a lot of these kettles now have got the concealed element in the bottom, so the amount of water required isn't quite as much. And on this Bosch one, it's only 0.3 litres as a minimum amount. So just consider the minimum amount that you can boil, especially if there's only one person going to be using the kettle. Now number 8 on the list would be smart kettles. We are finding, especially in the kitchen, that there are a lot more smart appliances available where you can connect them up to your phone or your tablet. The main advantage is it allows flexibility to control these appliances, and kettles are starting to come into that. I think they have been left out a little bit. So could it be useful to you if your kettle boiled at a certain time in the day? For example, when you get up in the morning, if you want your kettle to boil, say at 6:15 AM, then you could set that. Also, when you get home from work, then if you get home at a certain time, then you could have your kettle that has just boiled. That kind of thing is possible with certain kettles. Is it useful for you? I'd say for the majority of people probably not, but there will be a chunk of people that it can be useful. So have a look out for a smart kettle. Number 9 on the list is the warranty of the kettle. What you will find is that the kettle is one of the most unreliable small kitchen appliances that you've got in your kitchen for some reason. Perhaps because the kettle is used a lot more than, say, a toaster. But just have a look to see what warranty comes with it. You will find some manufacturers come with a 1-year guarantee, and then other manufacturers go up to a 2 or even a 3-year warranty. So this can make a big difference, because if you do have a fault with it, then hopefully that should get sorted out for you. And then finally, number 10 on the list will always come down to the price of the kettle. This will always vary, so it really depends what you want it to do. So if you just want a really basic kettle that you just want to sit on a worktop, say in a staff kitchen, just to boil the kettle for a nice hot cup of tea, then that kind of kettle tends to be quite popular. Whereas if you want something that is going to look part of your kitchen, it's going to match with the toaster, it's quite a feature in there, which for a lot of people is the case now, then these kind of designs are a lot more popular now. But clearly prices will vary, so you can find that kind of kettle, just for a basic plastic white kettle, you could start around the sort of £10 mark in a lot of supermarkets. Whereas on this kind of design of kettle, as I say, this is one of our most popular ones, and this sells for around £70 or £80. So they do vary. Some kettles, even smart kettles, can go say 100, 150, even £200 for some very, very sort of top-end kettles. Now, as a company, we do sell a lot of kettles, and what I will do is I will post a couple of links down here for some of the most popular kettles that we sell. So clearly what I've talked about here today are electric kettles. I do appreciate there are other ways of boiling water. There are single devices that you can just boil a single cup of water. So if you do live on your own, then that could be a good way of boiling water. There are other things like hot taps. Hot taps are quite trendy at the moment. It is something that a lot of people are going for. The whole concept of a hot tap is you've got hot water on demand. It is something to have a look at. Again, I'll just post a link here for a really popular one that's available on the market. What you'll also find is that with a hot tap, although you have got water on demand, whether you're saving money by having that kind of device is debatable. The initial price of buying a hot tap is very expensive, also the maintenance cost on it, and also what you'll find is a lot of them have a little tank, it has a little reservoir underneath. So I hope you enjoyed the 10 things to consider before buying an electric kettle. Hope you found it useful, or maybe one or two things you didn't quite consider beforehand. All I'd normally ask is please click subscribe and leave any comments below on my YouTube channel. I'm sure I might have missed things, because there might be other things to consider before buying a kettle. If you think I have missed something, then just pop it in the comments. Also, if you are thinking about buying a kettle, if you've got a question on something or a particular kettle, then I'll try and find out. Again, just leave it in the comments and I shall get back to you. Anyway, thanks for watching.